Skarloey had been to the works to be mended. He felt much better. Rusty the Diesel was helping him off his rail car. Skarloey hadn't met the little diesel before. Rusty seems a kindly sort of engine, he thought to himself.
That's a good assumption to make, Skarloey. Rusty is a great diesel. Kind-hearted and friendly, this orange box will be there for anyone who needs it. While those two yucked it up, Peter Sam was feeling forgotten at the sheds. However, Top Hat told him there was a surprise coming his way. This made him feel much more excited. At the same time, Rusty was telling Skarloey all about himself and what he does on their way home.
The surprise was Skarloey. "Oh," said Peter Sam, "I'm glad you've come home." They lit Skarloey's fire and he sizzled happily. "I feel all excited," he said, "just like a young engine. Now tell me all the news."
Ha, good thing Top Hat thought of arranging this meetup. Otherwise, Peter Sam really would have felt left out. So Peter Sam did and discussed with him what has happened since Skarloey's springs popped. This ended up leading to the topic of Duncan. No, not a Dunkin' Donuts, because not all of America runs on them. This Duncan was of Scottish descent and was brought on to fill in for Peter Sam since his troublesome truck encounter.
He keeps busy, and I'm sure he means well, but he's bouncy and rude. He sings and sways and swivels around. His drivers call it rock and roll. "I understand," said Skarloey gravely.
But before anything else could be said, there was news of Duncan needing help after having a jolly old time jamming on the tracks. Skarloey was looking forward to meeting Duncan, but first he grabbed a bunch of workmen and a brake van. While on the way, though, he began to notice the difference in the rails, and realized this was all due to Rusty. Did I not say the orange box was a great thing?
"How nice and smooth the rails are," thought Skarloey. "They've mended all the old bumps. The little diesel has helped to do that. What a difference Rusty's made to the line."
When Skarloey finally reached the tunnel, he discovered everything Peter Sam had told him was true. Duncan said more than he did. Now the question is, who's worse, Duncan or Sir Handel? I know this is our first introduction to this yellow narrow gauger, but being we're already not starting off well, I can only imagine these two will be neck and neck shortly. Speaking of which, Sir Handel hasn't shown up once yet. He must really be working hard, or he's gone to tell off Gordon.
"I'm a plain, blunt engine. I speak as I find. Tunnels should be tunnels and not rabbit holes. This railway is no good at all." "Don't be silly," snapped his driver. "This tunnel is quite big enough for engines who don't rock and roll."
Either Duncan's driver knows him really well and they've had this talk before, or this is a new driver and doesn't take crap from Duncan. Because this guy knows how to put his foot down. The only way Duncan was ever going to get out of there was by clearing the rubble and fixing Rheneas's tunnel. When that was done, Skarloey pushed the whole train himself out of the mess and forced it all the way home. Duncan, of course, didn't do anything but grumble. I don't know why, though, because Skarloey came out of his way to help him. It could be worse, after all. Rusty could have been the engine rescuing him. But nobody was going to rescue Duncan from what was coming next.
"Tunnels are not dance floors, and you are not a pop star." Then Sir Topham Hatt gave his full attention to Duncan's funnel. "If it happens again, I shall find ways to cut you down to size. In other words, your career is on the line. Need I say more?" Duncan thought Sir Topham Hatt had said quite enough, and he remained completely silent and still, for at least a whole evening.
I'm sure it did. Duncan is the only narrow-gauge engine to have such a funnel, and I'm sure he doesn't want to look like the rest of them. This was an okay episode, although I would have enjoyed seeing a little more focus on Rusty. When multiple characters get introduced consecutively, it gets difficult to develop them evenly. We did hear about what Rusty's done, but aside from helping Peter Sam, that's it. We now know of Duncan, but we only know of why he was hired. That doesn't explain why he doesn't like Rusty, though. He quite honestly sounds like he doesn't like anyone. He might actually be more narcissistic than Sir Handel at this point. But we'll have to see more of what's done with Mr. Rock and Roll. For Skarloey, it was good of him to help, as much as Duncan didn't make things any easier. Hopefully for Skarloey's sake, he feels more comfortable than before, now that there are so many other engines to help in the growing list of jobs. Music-wise, we got two themes to talk about. The first being the Skarloey Railway theme. I mentioned it was missing in the last one. Well, here it is again. And if it didn't play while Skarloey was around, I would have to question that. The other, however, was a new theme, and that was Duncan's. Duncan's is energetic, reckless, and cocky, which sounds a lot like it belongs to Smudger, too. Is Duncan gearing up to become a generator? We'll see. For geography, Rheneas' station is seen, along with Rheneas' tunnel where Duncan gets pinned. There's also the Hall and Dory line, and Skarloey's bridge. Those are the highlight areas for this time. Next episode is rock and roll. Thanks for watching.